Hey YouTube, MDEX Music here, and welcome back to another episode of Upper Structures Fridays, a series in where we look at upper structure voicings for the purpose of piano comping and improvisation. If you haven't done so already, definitely check out the introduction to the series, where we explain upper structures and how to use them to create new colors in music. You can click on the iCard right here. We'll also leave a link in the description down below. Also, don't forget to check out our website where you can download the Upper Structures book bundle with all possible upper structures. Enough introduction, let's get started. So today what we're going to look at is a major triad on the second degree of a dominant chord. If you do that, the color you'll get is this. We're simply playing a major triad on top of a dominant chord starting on the second of that chord. For example, in G7, 2 is A. So we just have to play an A major triad on top of the G7. That will give us a G7, 9, sharp 11, 13. As you can hear, this is a rich sounding chord with three tensions, the 9, the sharp 11, and the 13. And you can also hear it out of context. This is a harsh sounding chord. So let's talk about ways of conceptualizing this upper structure triad. And one way is this. You start with your dominant 7 chord, which in this case was G7, G, B, D, and F. And then you find the 9th of that chord. You extend the chord up to the 9th. That gives us an A. And then you root the major triad on that A, giving us an A major triad. There's our A major triad. There's our G7 chord. And when you put them together, you get this. You get that rich, sort of harsh sound we were talking about before. Another way would be to just think of the major triad starting on a major second above the root and playing it using any inversion. The more advanced way of looking at this upper structure is by looking at the scale it produces. If we put all the notes from the chord plus the upper structure in order, we get a Lydian flat 7. Because 1, 3, 5, flat 7, 9, sharp 11, and 13 in order is just 1, 2, 3, sharp 4, 5, 6, and flat 7, which is the Lydian flat 7 scale. This scale pairs perfectly with two common functions found in music, the flat 7/7 and the sub 5/7. So when you see a flat 7/7, your best bet is the Lydian flat 7, and the same goes for the sub 5/7. In C, the flat 7/7 is B flat 7, and it typically resolves to the 1, C. So now when you play this B flat 7, you can use our upper structure, which is a major triad starting on the second degree. In B flat 7, the major triad starting on the second degree is the C triad. As you can see, in this case, the upper structure, our C chord, represents the 1 of the key that we're in. We can then think of this upper structure as just playing a 1 chord on top of the flat 7/7. In My Romance, this A flat 7 is the flat 7/7. We're in the key of B flat, so we can play the B flat triad, which is the 1 on top of it, and resolve it by moving the B flat to an A to get the major 7th of the B flat major 7, which is our 1 chord. So moving forward, you can always use this technique when you see a flat 7/7 to 1 cadence. So here's my A flat 7 chord on the left hand. This represents the flat 7/7 of the key we're in. With my right hand, all I need to do now is play the triad, our B flat chord, B flat, D, and F, and when I put them together, there's that sound we talked about earlier. Now, all I have to do is resolve the root of that upper structure, the B flat, down a half step when I go to the 1. And we get a really nice resolution. This is the same exact muscle memory and technique and movement we used in our first example with Satin Doll. The The other common function where you can use this upper structure is any sub 5/7, diatonic or secondary, because they all use Lydian flat 7 as the default chord scale, as you can see clearly in mapping tonal harmony. So now you have 3 different perspectives on how to think of this upper structure. And all 3 of them, while different, are completely valid and will get you to the same conclusion. So here's your challenge of the day. Try to find the appropriate upper structure using today's technique for the chords we're about to give you. As usual, we'll give you 4 beats to think about your answer. A flat 7, B flat, C7, D, G7, the A chord, E7, F sharp, B flat 7, C, E flat 7, F, F7, G. So that's it for today, guys. Hope that was helpful. Come back next week for another episode of Upper Structure Fridays, where we explore a brand new technique on how to use upper structures in our voicings and improvisation. Please like and subscribe. Click on the notification bell if you'd like to stay up to date on current content. Thanks for watching, and we'll leave you with this demo.